My name is Maren Voss. I'm 34 years old, and 3 hours before my 9-year-old son's heart surgery, my mother slid an invoice across a hospital billing desk like she was closing on a house. The number at the bottom was written in red ink. $18,400. My son Eli was lying behind me in a pre-op bed with a warmed blanket up to his chest, an IV taped to the back of his small hand, and a blue hospital bracelet loose around his wrist. My mother zip-tapped the invoice with one polished fingernail and said, "Help is for family who remembers what they owe." My father gave a short laugh, the kind he used when he wanted everyone nearby to understand that I was the embarrassing one. Then he said, "Broke mothers shouldn't promise children miracles." I felt Eli's fingers tighten around mine under the blanket. I didn't answer right away. There were nurses moving behind the glass doors. A man in scrubs was checking a chart at the counter. The financial counselor, Miguel Alvarez, had gone very still in his chair, one hand resting on Eli's file. On my phone, face down beside my coffee, there was a missed call from First Harbor Bank. That detail stayed with me, because my mother saw the phone light up and smiled like she had already won. She thought the bank was hers. She thought the clinic was hers. She thought I had come to that hospital with nothing but a sick child, an empty checking account, and a lifetime habit of folding under her voice. But my grandmother had taught me a long time ago to read the line with the signatures before I believed the name printed at the top. And by the end of that morning, the same people who watched my parents shame me at a billing desk would watch my mother stop smiling at her own phone. Not because I yelled, not because I begged, because paperwork, the thing my family had laughed at for years, finally told the truth out loud. Some people bring flowers to a hospital. My mother brought a bill. Welcome back to By Then I Knew, where the people who kept swallowing the truth finally get to set it down. If you've ever been called difficult for remembering what happened, or ungrateful for asking not to be used, this one is for you. I'm telling it the way I lived it, in pieces of paper, old family sentences, waiting room coffee, and the sound of my son trying to be brave. Drop a comment and tell me where you're listening from, and if these stories help you feel less alone, subscribe and stay a while. There are families who treat kindness like a contract. There are families who only call you strong when they need you silent. This is the story of the morning. My parents found out that I had been quiet, but I had not been careless. The hospital clock said 6:12 a.m. when my mother arrived. I remember that because Eli had asked me twice how long 3 hours was. "Is it like school recess 3 times?" he whispered. "Longer than that," I said, smoothing his hair away from his forehead, "but shorter than a whole movie marathon." He tried to smile. Eli had my dark hair and his father's wide-set eyes, but when he was scared, his mouth pulled tight exactly like mine. His father wasn't there. He had left when Eli was 2, back when the words cardiology follow-up still sounded like something adults said to be cautious, not something that would one day become surgery. Eli had been born with a defect in one of the valves in his heart. For years, his doctors watched it. Then they watched it closer. Then one Tuesday afternoon in April, Dr. Rosner sat across from me with her hands folded and said, "It's time." I had known before she said it. Mothers learn the weather in their children's faces. By the morning of surgery, I had done every task a person could do to keep herself from falling apart. I had called insurance until my phone battery died. I had sent pay stubs, tax returns, denial letters, appeal forms, and the emergency assistance packet. I had made a spreadsheet of every possible charge I could understand, and a second spreadsheet of the ones no normal person should ever be expected to understand. That was my job, in a way. Not heart surgery, not medicine, paperwork. That was what my parents called it. I was a medical reimbursement auditor for a regional hospital network. I read claim denials, payroll coding errors, provider contracts, missing authorizations, and patient assistance files. I knew how a wrong digit could stall care. I knew how a missing signature could turn into a crisis. I knew how systems punished tired people for not knowing the right word to say at the right window. My parents had never respected that work. My mother, Diane Voss, liked to say, "Maren's good with forms," the same way another person might say someone was good at peeling potatoes. My father, Harold, owned that same tone with quieter words. Don't make paperwork into a personality. He once told me at Thanksgiving while asking me to look over a clinic insurance audit after dessert. My parents ran Voss Family Care, the clinic my grandmother June had started in the 70s, with 2 exam rooms, 1 nurse, and a coffee pot she cleaned herself every night. By the time I was grown, it had 8 exam rooms, a physical therapy suite, a billing office, and my mother's name on the sign beside my father's. Everyone in Fairbridge knew the clinic. Everyone knew my parents. My mother wore soft cream blazers and gold hoops and called every patient Han. My father did blood pressure checks at church health fairs and laughed with men in the parking lot after service. They were good at being seen giving care. At home, care had always come with a receipt. That morning, my mother looked dressed for a donor luncheon, not a children's hospital. Navy dress, pearls, low heels, lipstick the color of dried rose petals. My father was behind her in his clinic jacket, even though he wasn't working. He still had his stethoscope around his neck, like a costume piece that reminded strangers to respect him. My younger sister Celeste came in behind them, carrying an iced coffee and wearing sunglasses on top of her head. She was 31 and had recently begun calling herself the clinic's strategy consultant, though no one had ever been able to explain what that meant. "Where is he?" my mother asked. Not "how is he?" Not "how are you holding up?" "Where is he?" Like Eli was a display she had come to inspect. "He's here," I said. "They're getting him ready." Eli lifted his hand a little from under the blanket. "Hi, Grandma." My mother glanced at him, smiled with her mouth, and said, "There's our brave boy." Then she turned back to me. Miguel Alvarez, the hospital financial counselor, sat behind the desk with Eli's file open. He had kind eyes and a wedding ring that clicked softly against his keyboard when he typed. He had been helping me since 5:40 that morning, confirming that my assistant's paperwork had been received, that the surgical deposit issue would not delay pre-op, and that the remaining balance would be handled through review after the procedure. Miguel knew how close I was to breaking because he had watched me sign my name 3 times with a hand that wanted to shake. He also knew I had not missed a form. My mother did not greet him. She reached into her leather tote and pulled out a folded sheet of paper. "I thought we should settle this before things get emotional," she said. That was when I noticed the red number, $18,400. At first, I thought it was something from the hospital, a revised estimate, a charge I had missed. My stomach dropped so fast I had to put one palm on the counter. Then I saw the itemized lines. Braces contribution, $2,800. School clothing, ages 11 to 17. Gas and transportation, $1,150. Room and board after 18th birthday, $4,500. Emotional distress caused by poor choices, $1,000. There were more lines, but that was where my eyes stopped. Emotional distress. My mother had invoiced me for the inconvenience of raising me. I heard Miguel inhale quietly. "Mom," I said, keeping my voice low because Eli could hear every word. "What is this?" My mother leaned one hip against the counter. "It's a record." Celeste took a sip of coffee and looked away. My father folded his arms. "Your mother has been more than patient," Eli whispered. "Mom." I turned enough to touch his knee under the blanket. "It's okay, baby." My mother's eyes sharpened at the word baby. She never liked tenderness she couldn't control. "Before we discuss helping with anything," she said, "we need acknowledgement. Your father and I sacrificed a great deal raising you, and yet every time there's an emergency, you show up expecting family to rescue you." "I didn't ask you to rescue me," I said. That was true. I had told them about the surgery because Eli loved them, and because some old, stubborn part of me had wanted to believe they would want to sit in a waiting room for him. I had not asked for money. I had not asked for a check. My mother smiled. "Marin, don't start with technicalities." A nurse walked past with a stack of blankets and slowed, just slightly. My father looked toward her, then back at me. He raised his voice half an inch, enough for people to hear without making it seem like he wanted them to. "We're saying there are responsibilities. You can't keep making poor decisions and expecting everyone else to pay for them." The poor decision was Eli. He didn't say it, but I heard it. So did my son. Eli turned his face toward the wall. Something in me went quiet then. Not calm, quiet. There is a difference. Quiet was what happened when I stopped spending energy on the hope that my father might suddenly choose me. I looked down at the invoice again. The paper had a faint perfume smell from my mother's tote. In the corner, beside the red total, one of the lines had been written in a slightly different hand. The loop on the C in Celeste apartment deposit gave it away. I filed that away without knowing yet exactly how it would matter. Then my phone buzzed. First Harbor Bank. My mother saw the caller ID before the screen went dark. "Oh, good," she said. "Maybe that's your overdraft notice." Celeste laughed into her straw. Miguel looked at me, waiting. I set my coffee down. "Call the bank," I said. "Excuse me," I looked at Miguel. "Could you please keep Eli's file open? And could someone let the front desk know Nora Ivers may be coming up?" My mother's smile stayed in place, but her eyes moved. She knew that name I did not explain, not yet. To understand why my mother thought I would sign that paper, you have to understand the house I grew up in. It was a split-level brick house 4 blocks from the clinic, with a porch light that stayed on for patients who dropped off forms after hours. But not always for me when I came home late from work. My mother liked things that looked generous from the street. Flower boxes under the windows, a wreath for every season, a brass plaque beside the door that said the Voss family, as if our last name was a brand. Inside, the rules changed depending on who was watching. Celeste was the pretty one. That was not an insult. It was a family assignment. She had dance recitals, photo albums, tutoring, and a bedroom my mother redecorated whenever Celeste changed favorite colors. I was the capable one. That sounds like a compliment until you are a child, and it means no one checks whether you are tired. By the time I was 11, I knew how to alphabetize patient intake forms at the clinic. I knew which copier tray jammed if you filled it too high. I knew my father liked lab reports clipped on the left and referral requests clipped on the right. I knew my mother kept petty cash in a locked drawer but left the key under the ceramic swan. "Marin likes helping," my mother told patients when they saw me behind the receptionist desk after school. I did not like helping. I liked being praised. Those two things got tangled early. My grandmother June was the only person who seemed to notice the difference. Grandma June had started the clinic before my parents married. She had been a nurse practitioner before people in Fairbridge knew what that meant. She was small, square-shouldered, and impossible to rush. She wore navy cardigans with tissues in the sleeve and kept peppermint candies in a blue cloth coin purse that closed with a little brass snap. That coin purse is one of the first things I remember clearly from childhood. When I was 12, my mother promised me $20 to spend a Saturday filing old patient charts in the storage room. It was July, the air conditioner was broken, and I came home with paper cuts on 3 fingers. My mother said she had never promised cash. She said I was part of the family and family helped. Grandma June heard it from the hallway. She did not argue with Diane. That was not her style. She waited until my mother went upstairs, then called me into the kitchen. She opened the blue coin purse and counted out 4 $5 bills beside my glass of milk. "You earned it," she said. I whispered. "Mom said family helps." Grandma June snapped the purse shut. Family doesn't need a child to work for free to prove love. That may have been the first sentence in my life that made me feel seen. I did not know what to do with it. So I folded the bills into my sock drawer and kept helping. When I was 14, Celeste wanted to quit dance, then wanted to return 2 weeks later, which meant a new registration fee. My mother told me I could skip the 8th grade field trip because we all have to make choices. Grandma June wrote a check to the school and told the secretary not to mention it. When I was 16, my father asked me to drive Celeste to rehearsals because my parents were busy with the clinic expansion. If I complained, he sighed and said, "You're so much more mature than she is." Mature meant available. At 18, when I wanted to go away to college, my mother cried at the kitchen island about abandonment until I chose the state school 40 minutes away and commuted. She told people I had stayed close because family mattered to me. She did not tell them she had threatened to stop helping with tuition if I left. Grandma June noticed that too. One evening, when I was 19, she found me in the clinic billing office after closing. I had come in to drop off my father's forgotten lab coat and ended up helping Ruth Bell, the payroll clerk, reconcile a batch of insurance checks. Ruth had been at the clinic since before I was born. She had thin, silver hair, reading glasses on a chain, and a habit of murmuring numbers under her breath. "You're quick," Ruth said, surprised. "She always was," Grandma June said from the doorway. I looked up. "I'm just matching deposits." Grandma June came in, leaned on her cane, and pointed to the computer screen. "Read me that line." I read it. "No," she said, "not the big one, the line under it." I frowned. "Authorized signer." She nodded. "People look at the name on the door and think that's power. Always read the line that says who can sign." I laughed because I thought she was just teaching me office work. She did not laugh back. That detail stayed with me. Years later, after I had Eli, my parents used that same old family language on me. Family helps. Family doesn't keep score. Family remembers who raised them. But somehow, the only person expected not to keep score was me. When Eli was born, my mother came to the hospital with a monogrammed blanket and spent 20 minutes rearranging him for photos. My father looked at my son's tiny face and said, "Well, I hope you're ready to grow up now." I had been in labor for 31 hours. I said, "I am grown." He patted my foot under the blanket like I was a child pretending. "You know what I mean." Eli's father, Ryan, lasted 2 years after that. He was not cruel in the theatrical way my parents could be. He was just weak. He liked the idea of being a father more than the daily fact of it. When Eli's cardiology appointments became more frequent, Ryan became less available. By Eli's 2nd birthday, he was living 2 towns over with a woman who posted quotes about fresh starts. My mother said, "You always did pick projects." My father said nothing. Grandma June came over that night with soup in a thermos and sat on the floor beside Eli while he stacked blocks. She did not ask me what I had done wrong. She did not tell me to forgive anyone. She just said, "Sleep for an hour. I'll listen for him." That kind of help felt so unfamiliar I almost refused it. When Grandma June died 5 years later, I tucked her blue coin purse into the drawer beside my bed. It had 3 quarters, 1 peppermint, and an old bank card inside. I kept it because it smelled faintly like her purse and wintergreen gum. I did not know then that she had left more than memories tucked away for me. After she died, my parents changed. Not publicly. Publicly, they were grieving heirs. My mother wore black linen and dabbed her eyes during the funeral. My father gave a speech about legacy and community care. Celeste posted a photo of Grandma June with a caption about strong women and roots. Privately, my mother became sharper. She referred to the clinic as ours more often. She replaced Grandma June's old desk with a glass one. She took down the framed photo of June standing outside the original clinic and moved it to the hallway near the restroom. I asked once why she moved it. My mother said, "We can't run a modern practice like a museum." Ruth Bell heard her from the billing office and lowered her eyes. I should have known then that Ruth was carrying more than payroll folders. But I had Eli work, rent, school meetings, cardiology visits, and insurance appeals. I did not have room in my chest to worry about my mother's decorating choices. The clinic still called me when they needed something. That was the part no one outside the family saw. My parents acted like I had failed to become part of the family business. But every few months, my mother sent me a screenshot of a denied claim and wrote, "Can you tell Ruth what this means?" My father called when a Medicare recoupment notice arrived. Celeste texted me photos of spreadsheets and asked, "Is this bad?" With no hello, I answered most of the time. Not because I was weak. At least, not only because of that. Ruth worked there. So did nurses I had known since childhood. So did Maria at the front desk, whose husband had kidney disease. So did Craig, the physical therapist with twins in community college. When payroll coding got messy, real people waited for checks. I told myself I was helping them, not my parents. That was partly true. It was also easier than admitting I still wanted my parents to notice I was useful, and finally decide useful was enough. A few months before Eli's surgery, the first strange envelope came. It was cream-colored, thick, and addressed to Marin Voss, Successor Trustee, CO, First Harbor Bank. I almost threw it into the pile with insurance mail. Then I saw the word trustee. I stood with Eli's school lunch, half-packed, and read the return address twice. First Harbor Bank had been Grandma June's bank. I remembered the green marble counter from childhood, the lollipops, the way Grandma June never let anyone hurry her when she reviewed deposit slips. Inside the envelope was a notice about updated certification required for an account connected to the Voss Family Care Payroll Reserve. Most of the language was formal and dull. But dull language is where important things hide. I read it once standing up. Then I sat down and read it again. The notice referred to the June Voss Family Operations Trust. It said the bank required confirmation of successor authority following the settler's death. It listed Diane and Harold as authorized transactional users pending trustee review, not owners, not controlling signers, users. My pulse moved into my throat. Eli came into the kitchen, wearing one sock and holding the other. "Mom, I can't find my blue hoodie." I folded the letter, put it into my work bag, and said, "Check the dryer." That day at work, I kept seeing the phrase in my mind, pending trustee review. I knew enough to know what I did not know, so I did not call my mother. I did not call my father. I did not call Celeste. I called the bank. Nora Ivers answered after 2 transfers. Her voice was low and careful. "Voss, I was hoping you would call." I looked through the glass wall of my office at 2 coworkers arguing gently over a claim batch. "Why?" There was a pause. "Because your grandmother was very specific about timing." The line went quiet after that, not disconnected. Just full of things neither of us could say until I appeared in person with identification. I made an appointment for the following Tuesday. Then I went back to auditing denied claims, because that is what you do when the ground tilts under you and your child still needs dinner. That same week, Dr. Rosner moved Eli's surgery up. The valve was worsening. Not catastrophically, she said. Not an emergency in the ambulance sense. But urgent enough that waiting months would be careless. I left the cardiology office with a folder full of instructions and Eli walking beside me too quietly. In the parking lot, he said, "Will it hurt?" I knelt in front of him on the sidewalk. Cars moved around us. Someone's keys jingled. A sparrow hopped under a bench. "You'll be asleep for the surgery," I said. "When you wake up, it'll hurt some, but they'll help. I'll be there, the whole time, as much as they let me." He nodded, trying hard to be practical. "Can I bring my gray sweatshirt?" "Yes. And the little fox?" "Yes." "Are Grandma and Grandpa coming because they love me, or because you ask them to?" I wish I could say. I answered quickly. I didn't. "I told them because you matter," I said. He looked at me for a long second. Children know when adults answer beside the question. That night, after Eli fell asleep with the fox under his arm, I filled out hospital forms until almost 2 in the morning. I uploaded pay stubs. I attached tax documents. I wrote Eli's patient number on the top of every scan. I called the insurance nurse line and wrote down the reference number. At 1:17 a.m., my mother texted, "How much is the surgery going to cost you out of pocket?" I stared at the message. Then another came. "Your father and I need to know what kind of situation you've created." I typed, "We're working through the hospital assistance process. Eli is covered for surgery timing." She responded immediately. "That isn't an answer." I set the phone down. At 1:24, Celeste texted, "Mom says you're being secretive. This affects everybody, you know." I laughed once, without sound. My son's heart surgery affected everybody. That was a new way to say I was expected to submit my fear for family review. The next morning, Tessa Rowe knocked on my back door at 7 with a paper bag of muffins. Tessa's aus Skolsen and my neighbor from the other half of the duplex. She was 42, divorced, blunt in the kindest way, and always smelled faintly like lavender hand soap. She had learned about Eli's surgery because the school needed medical paperwork for his absence. She had not asked questions she did not need answered. "I made too many," she said, handing me the bag. "You made exactly 4. I made too many for myself." Eli appeared behind me. "Are those blueberry?" Tessa lifted one eyebrow. "One of them is, if your mother gets coffee before she tries to answer another email." I almost cried over the muffins. That is what I remember. Not big speeches, not dramatic comfort. A warm muffin in a paper bag, and someone noticing I had not eaten breakfast. A week later, I met Nora at First Harbor Bank. The branch smelled like carpet cleaner and old paper. Nora Ivers was in her late 50s with silver blonde hair cut just under her jaw and glasses on a chain that looked more practical than decorative. She wore a charcoal cardigan and had Grandma June's posture, straight, unhurried, immune to fuss. She led me into a small office with frosted glass. "I'm sorry about your grandmother," she said. Thank you. She liked you. I looked down at my hands. She was good to me. Nora opened a folder, then stopped with one palm resting on the cover. Before we review anything, I want to be clear. I can explain the bank's records and what authority is on file. I can't give you family legal advice. I understand, do you? I met her eyes. She was not being condescending. She was checking whether I understood that what was in the folder might make my life harder before it made anything better. I work in reimbursement audits, I said. I know the difference between a record and what people wish a record said. Nora almost smiled. June said you did. Then she opened the folder. I will not pretend I understood everything at once. Trust language is its own weather system, but I understood enough. Grandma June had not left the clinic outright to my parents. The operating company had layers: business assets, property interests, payroll reserves, employee benefit obligations, and a trust structure that my parents had been allowed to use because they ran daily operations. But the payroll reserve account, the account designed to protect staff pay if the clinic had cash flow problems, had stayed inside Grandma June's family operations trust. 2 years before she died, after what Nora called irregular transfer concerns, Grandma June had amended the trust administration instructions. I saw my name, Marin Elise Voss, successor controlling signer upon settler's death, with authority to restrict transactional users and appoint third-party payroll administration as needed. My first feeling was not triumph, it was nausea, because all I could think was, what did Grandma June know? Nora slid a second sheet toward me. It was a record of notices sent after Grandma June's death. One to Diane, one to Harold, one to the clinic's administrative address, one returned. 2 marked delivered. Your mother did not respond, Nora said. She may not have understood. Nora's expression did not change. Ruth Bell called twice to ask whether the notices were serious. I looked up. Ruth? She did not have authority to act. She did seem concerned about payroll timing. There it was again, payroll. Real people, real checks, real rent. I asked the question before I could lose courage. If I update this, do employees miss pay? No, Nora said, not if handled correctly. The account can continue payroll disbursements under authorized approval. What changes is who can move money elsewhere. Elsewhere, that word sat between us. Nora did not accuse my parents. She did not have to. She showed me copies of transfer attempts, memo lines, internal notes, and one flagged transaction labeled consulting catch-up. Celeste. I did not say her name. Nora watched me read it. My grandmother knew, I asked. She suspected enough to make changes, Nora said. I thought of Grandma June's blue coin purse, her careful bills, her cane beside the clinic desk, her telling me to read the signer line. She never told me, I said. No, Nora said softly. She told the documents. I signed nothing final that day. I took copies I was allowed to take. I asked questions. I called a legal aid attorney during lunch and paid for a short consultation I could barely afford. I called Nora again. I checked dates. I checked the hospital forms. I checked everything twice because my son's surgery mattered more than my anger. That was the part my parents would never understand. I did not want a scene. I wanted Eli alive. I wanted clinic employees paid. I wanted one clean morning in a hospital without being made into a problem. My mother made sure I did not get it. The trap became clear 2 days before surgery. Diane left a voicemail while I was at work. Her voice was warm in the false way she used when she expected other people might hear the recording someday. Marin, your father and I are trying to help you be responsible. We need you to understand that large expenses affect the entire family. You can't keep expecting private conversations to protect you from adult obligations. You'll sign what you need to sign when everyone is watching, if that's what it takes. I saved the voicemail, not because I planned to use it, because I had learned not to delete evidence of things people later denied. That evening, Tessa watched Eli while I drove to the bank again. Nora stayed 10 minutes past closing. She had the papers ready. Are you sure? Asked. No, I said honestly. But I'm clear, she accepted that. We updated preliminary authority in a way that would not interrupt payroll. Nora explained each step twice. I asked what Diane and Harold would see on their side. Reduced access, Nora said. Depending on what they attempt. What if they try to move money? They won't be able to without approval. What if they try to make payroll? Payroll files already queued through Ruth can be approved through the proper channel. I breathed for what felt like the first time in days. Before I left, Nora handed me a folder with copies of the signature card and trust certification excerpt. "This is not for a fight," she said. "This is for clarity." I put the folder in my work bag beside Eli's surgery instructions. On surgery morning, I carried the blue coin purse because I could not find my regular wallet. That is the honest truth. It was not symbolic in the moment. It was 4:58 a.m. My hands were full. Eli was pale from fasting, and the parking garage machine wanted exact change after rejecting my card. I opened Grandma June's coin purse and found 3 quarters, a folded receipt from the pharmacy, and the old bank card I had never thrown away. The brass snap clicked shut in my palm. Eli looked at it. "That was great-grandma's." "Yes, can I hold it after surgery?" I said. "I don't want to lose it." He nodded like he understood that some things had to be held by the adult until the scary part was over. Tessa met us at the hospital entrance with Eli's gray sweatshirt in her arms. "You left it on the dryer," she said. I stared at her. "I saw your kitchen light on at 4, she added. Figured today was not the day to let a sweatshirt become a tragedy. Eli reached for it immediately. "Thanks, Nurse Tessa." "You're welcome, sir." She also handed me a phone charger, a clean pair of socks, and half a peanut butter sandwich wrapped in foil. "I'm not hungry," I said. I didn't ask. I put the sandwich in my bag and hugged her with one arm because the other was holding Eli's paperwork. By 5:40, Miguel had Eli's file open. By 5:55, the pre-op nurse had taken Eli's vitals. By 6:05, I had signed the consent forms with a pen that skipped on the first letter of my name. By 6:12, my parents arrived. And by 6:18, my mother had placed the invoice on the counter. It is strange what humiliation does to sound. The whole room seemed to lower itself. The printer behind Miguel clicked. A child coughed somewhere near the waiting chairs. Celeste's straw squeaked against the plastic lid of her coffee. My mother kept tapping the red number. 18,400, she said. "And frankly, that is conservative." Miguel cleared his throat. "Mrs. Voss, Ms. Voss's surgical assistance documentation is already under review. This conversation may be better held somewhere private." My mother gave him a look usually reserved for receptionists who did not recognize her name fast enough. "This is a family matter." Miguel did not move. "This is also a pediatric pre-op area." My father stepped closer. "Young man, I'm a physician. We understand hospital areas." Miguel nodded politely. "Then you understand why we keep stress around minor patients as low as possible." I could have kissed that man on the forehead. My mother ignored him. "Marin signed the acknowledgement," she said. "Then your father and I will decide what we can contribute." "I'm not signing that." Celeste made a small noise. "Oh my God, Marin." I looked at her for the first time. "Not today." She lowered her sunglasses from her head to her face, as if the fluorescent lights had become unbearable. "You always do this. You turn every situation into a moral performance." That almost made me laugh. My son was in a hospital bed, and I was the one performing. Eli pulled the blanket higher. Tessa, who had been sitting beside his bed, leaned close and murmured something I could not hear. Eli nodded. My father saw that, and for one moment his face changed. He looked old. Not cruel, not superior. Just old and scared and maybe ashamed. He reached into the inside pocket of his clinic jacket. I saw the edge of his checkbook. My breath caught. Diane saw it too. "Harold," she said, one word. Not loud. Not sharp enough for strangers to understand. But I knew that tone. It was the tone that meant he could choose peace with her or decency with me, but not both. His hand stopped. He looked at Eli, then at me, then at my mother, and he let the checkbook slide back into his pocket. I felt something inside me close without slamming. That was the almost moment. For years I had told myself my father was trapped too, softer than my mother, less dramatic. Maybe privately kind in ways that would one day become public if the stakes were high enough. There are moments when someone's failure is so small from the outside that only you hear the door lock. This was mine. I turned away from him. Miguel said, "Miss Voss, the surgical team is still on schedule." "Thank you," I said. My mother's mouth tightened. She did not like being routed around. "On scale with what payment?" she asked. "Because we all know Marin doesn't have that kind of money." I looked at Miguel. He looked down at Eli's file. then back at my mother. The procedure is medically necessary and authorized for today. Financial review continues separately. My mother blinked. She had not expected that. For all her talk about wanting information, she had assumed I had missed something. She had assumed there would be a gap she could stand in and call herself generous. As I watched her realize the surgery might happen without her permission. That scared her more than the bill. Celeste stepped in. Mom is trying to prevent another disaster. Do you have any idea what this kind of stress does to the clinic before payroll? The word landed exactly where she did not know it would. Payroll. Ruth Bell appeared at the hallway entrance a minute later, carrying the clinic tablet in both hands. I had not seen Ruth in months. She looked thinner than I remembered. Her silver hair was pinned back, but pieces had escaped near her temples. She wore a brown cardigan over her clinic blouse and flat shoes that squeaked faintly on the hospital floor. "Diane," she said, breathless. "You told me to bring the tablet." My mother turned. "Not now." Ruth's eyes moved from Diane to my father, then to me, then to Eli in the bed. "Oh," she said softly. "Marin." "Hi, Ruth." Her face changed when she saw the invoice on the counter. She knew my mother well enough to read a room quickly. My mother snatched the clinic tablet from Ruth's hands. "We have practical matters to handle." Ruth did not let go right away. "The payroll file is queued." "I still need," I said. "Not now." Ruth released it. Miguel looked from Ruth to me. He did not know the history, but he knew pressure when he saw it. My phone buzzed again. "Nora." This time I answered. "Nora," I said. My mother stiffened. Nora's voice came through calm and low. "I'm in the lobby. Security is asking where to direct me." "Pediatric surgical registration," I said. "Second floor, east elevators. I'll be there in 3 minutes. Thanks you." I ended the call. My mother tilted her head. "Why is Nora Ivers coming here?" "You told me to call the bank," I said. "I did not tell you to invite outsiders into family business." I looked at the invoice on the public counter. Then I looked at Eli's bed, at Miguel, at Ruth, at the nurse who had stopped pretending not to listen. "No," I said. "You brought family business here." My father said my name under his breath. Warning and pleading mixed together. "Marin." I did not look at him. My mother's cheeks had flushed under her makeup. "If this is some stunt to embarrass us, you should think very carefully. Your father and I still control the clinic. We still decide what happens there. You are not in a position to play games with real money." That was the first time she said it clearly. Control. Real money, position, not Eli, not surgery, not love. Celeste put her coffee down on the counter hard enough that the ice jumped. "This is insane. Mom, why are we even discussing this with her? The clinic account belongs to the real family." Ruth made a small sound. I turned toward her. She was staring at Celeste now, not with surprise, but with a tired disappointment I recognized. "How would you know anything about the clinic account?" I asked Celeste. She scoffed. "Because unlike you, I didn't run away from the family business. I work in hospital reimbursement." "You work for other people," she said. "You don't build anything." My mother nodded, encouraged. "Exactly." Miguel shifted in his chair. He looked like a man trying very hard to remain professional while watching a car crash in slow motion. Eli whispered, "Mom, am I still having surgery?" I turned immediately. Yes, my voice was steadier for him than it was for anyone else. "You are still having surgery," my mother said. "That depends." The room stopped. Even Celeste looked at her. Miguel's face hardened. "Mrs. Voss." Diane lifted one hand. "I'm not saying the hospital won't do its job. I'm saying Marin needs to understand there are consequences when she refuses help and then expects it." "I didn't refuse help," I said. "You offered conditions. Adults have conditions." "No," Tessa said. It was the first word she had spoken loudly enough for my family to hear. Everyone looked at her. Tessa stood beside Eli's bed, one hand on the rail. She was not tall, but she had the posture of a nurse who had told too many parents to put their phones away during fevers. "No," my mother said, offended. Tessa's voice stayed even. "A child's surgery is not where you collect a debt." My mother looked her up and down. "And you are Tessa Rowe, Eli's school nurse, Marin's neighbor, so not family." Tessa did not flinch. "No." The silence after that was different. My mother had expected Tessa to be embarrassed by the correction. Instead, Tessa seemed perfectly comfortable not belonging to us. I envied that for half a second. Then the elevator doors opened. Nora Ivers walked in holding a dark green folder. My mother smiled before she could stop herself. It was almost beautiful, that smile. Bright, relieved, confident. In her mind, Nora was a bank employee from Fairbridge. A person who had seen Diane at fundraisers and Harold at clinic ribbon cuttings. Someone who would understand who mattered. "Nora," my mother said, stepping forward. "Thank God. This has gotten completely out of hand." Nora looked at her, then at me. "Miss Maren Voss," she said. "You asked me to bring the current records." My mother's smile faltered. "Current records for what?" Harold asked. I could hear the fear under his voice now. Nora walked to the billing counter. Miguel quietly moved Eli's file to the side to give her space. That small gesture mattered. He made room for the truth without making a speech. Nora placed the folder on the counter, but did not open it yet. "Before I disclose anything," she said, "I need to confirm who is present and whether Voss consents to me verifying account authority in this setting." My mother laughed once. "Account authority? Nora, this is absurd." Nora did not look at her. She looked at me. I thought of Eli's hand under the blanket, Grandma June's coin purse in my bag, Ruth's tired face, my father's checkbook disappearing back into his jacket. "Yes," I said. Diane's voice sharpened. "Verify what, exactly?" I still did not answer. Not because I was trying to be dramatic. Because my whole life, my mother had turned my explanations into arguments. If I said too much, she would grab one sentence and wrestle with it until the room forgot the paper. So I let the paper speak first. Nora opened the folder. My mother glanced at the top sheet and gave a dismissive little shake of her head. "Oh, for heaven's sake. Trust paperwork?" June had piles of that nonsense. "It doesn't change operations." Nora slid one page forward. "Mrs. Voss, do you recognize this account ending in 44009? Ruth closed her eyes. Diane looked annoyed. "That's the clinic payroll reserve." "Thank you," Nora said. My father took one step closer. "Nora, this is not the time. With respect, Dr. Voss," Nora said. "The timing was created by the attempted access this morning." I looked at my father. He looked at Diane. There it was, attempted access. My mother had tried to move money that morning. Maybe before coming to the hospital. Maybe while sitting in the parking garage. Maybe while telling herself she could force me to sign and cover both the surgery performance and whatever clinic hole she had created. Celeste stopped chewing her straw. Nora placed a second page beside the first. "This is the current signature card." My mother reached for it. Nora moved it back just enough. "Please don't touch the original copy." Diane's face went red. "Do not speak to me like I'm a child." Nora's voice stayed calm. "Then please don't reach for bank documents that are not yours to alter." I heard someone behind us exhale. Miguel folded his hands. Nora turned the page so the signature line faced outward. I saw my name before my parents did. Maren Elise Voss. The ink looked almost too ordinary for what it was about to do. My mother stared at it. Then she laughed. "No," she said. "Just that." Nora placed the trust certification excerpt beside the signature card. "The June Voss Family Operations Trust designates Maren Voss as successor controlling signer for the payroll reserve account upon June Voss's death, with authority to restrict transactional users, approve payroll disbursements, and appoint third-party administration as needed." My father's face went pale. Celeste said, "That can't be legal." Ruth opened her eyes. Nora looked at Celeste. "It is legal." My mother pointed at me. "She doesn't even work at the clinic." Nora nodded once. "That is not a requirement. She has never contributed a useful dollar to that business." Ruth's head snapped up. Miguel looked at me, then at Eli, then down at the red invoice still sitting on the counter. Nora did not raise her voice. "Mrs. Voss, this stopped being your signing account on March 3rd. I sent 2 notices to your home address, one to the clinic, and one certified notice that was received by the front office." Ruth spoke then. Her voice was thin but clear. "I told you about them." My mother turned slowly. Ruth swallowed. "I told you twice. You said bank people send scary letters to justify their jobs." For 1 second, no one moved. Then my mother made her mistake. She said, "Payroll money is family money until we decide otherwise." There it was. The sentence that did not need interpretation. Nora looked down at the folder. Miguel looked directly at Diane. Ruth's mouth trembled. My father closed his eyes. I did not say anything. My mother seemed to realize what she had said only after it had already left her. She looked around. That is not what I meant. Nora slid one more page forward. This is the notice log. This is the transaction restriction confirmation. As of this morning, Diane and Harold Voss are no longer authorized to transfer funds out of the payroll reserve account without trustee approval. Celeste grabbed her phone. Mom, Diane took out hers. I watched her unlock it with her thumb, tap the banking app, tap again harder, and then stand perfectly still. Her face changed in a way I will never forget, not sadness, not remorse, loss of access. That was the first pain she understood. My father whispered, "Diane, what did you try to do?" She snapped. "Not now." But the room had heard him. Nora looked at me. "Voss, the pending payroll file prepared by Ruth Bell can still be approved under the protected process. Staff wages do not need to be delayed." Ruth put one hand over her mouth. I nodded. "Approve payroll." My mother turned on me. "You do not get to give orders in my clinic." I looked at Nora. Nora said, "For this account, she does." My mother's voice dropped. "Marin, don't do this here." I almost smiled, but I didn't. She had chosen the hospital, the audience, the invoice, the timing, the shame. Now that the truth had arrived, suddenly privacy had become sacred. I picked up the red invoice. The paper shook a little in my hand. I let it. I was not as calm as they thought. I was just done performing my hurt for people who would use it as proof. I folded the invoice once and placed it beside Nora's documents. "Ellie's surgery goes first," I said. Miguel nodded immediately. "The surgical team is ready. I'll notify pre-op that there is no delay." "There was never going to be a delay," my mother said quickly. "We were only trying to teach." "Stop," Tessa said. It was quiet, but it landed. Eli looked between all of us. His face was pale. The nurse came to the bed then, blessedly, and said they were ready to take him back for the next step. The whole room shifted. Everything narrowed to my son. I bent over him and pressed my forehead gently to his. "You're okay," I whispered. He whispered back. "Are you okay?" I closed my eyes. Yes. That was not fully true, but it was true enough for the moment. The nurse unlocked the bed wheels. Tessa handed Eli the little stuffed fox. Miguel stepped aside. Ruth moved back against the wall, crying silently now. Nora closed the folder but kept one hand on it. As they rolled Eli toward the doors, my mother said, "We can discuss this after." I turned. She was trying a different face now, softer, wounded, maternal. "Marin," she said, "you're overwhelmed. Any mother would be. Let's not make decisions while you're frightened." There it was, fake love. It wore my mother's perfume and arrived only after her banking app stopped working. My father stepped beside her. "Honey, we should talk privately." Honey. I could not remember the last time he had called me that, without needing something. Celeste wiped under one eye, though no tears had fallen. "You're destroying Grandma's legacy." That one almost got me. Almost. Then Ruth spoke. "No," she said. We all looked at her. Ruth's hands were clasped, so tightly the knuckles were white. June's legacy was making sure staff got paid before anybody played games with money. My mother stared at her like a chair had started talking. Ruth kept going, barely above a whisper. "She said that to me more than once." Nora nodded once, as if confirming not gossip, but memory. My father sat down in one of the vinyl waiting chairs. Just sat, suddenly, like his knees had stopped negotiating. Miguel returned from the pre-op doors. "Voss, they'll let you walk with him to the surgical handoff." I looked at Tessa. She nodded toward the doors. "Go," she said. "I'll stay with your bag." My bag had the coin purse in it, the sandwich, the charger, the folder copies, all the ordinary and impossible things from that morning. I walked with Eli until the last place they would let me go. He was brave until he saw the double doors. Then his chin trembled. I bent close. "Remember what we practiced. Smell the cookie," he whispered, inhaling. "Blow the candle." He exhaled slowly, again in, out. I kissed his forehead. "I'll be right here when you wake up." "You promise?" "I promise." When they took him through, I stayed standing after the doors closed. A nurse touched my arm. "He's in good hands." I nodded. I did not cry until I reached the restroom near the vending machines. Then I locked myself in the last stall, sat on the closed toilet seat, pressed my hand over my mouth, and shook without making much sound. I cried for Eli. I cried because I was scared. I cried because my father had touched his checkbook and chosen not to open it. I cried because my grandmother had been dead for years and still managed to show up more honestly than the people standing 20 feet away. Then I washed my face with hospital soap, dried it with a rough brown paper towel, and went back out. Tessa was waiting by the vending machines with my coffee. "It's terrible now," she said, "but it's warm." I took it. She also handed me the half sandwich. "Eat 3 bites." "Can't, Aunt, 3. I ate 3 bites because she counted them. Back in the waiting area, my parents were gone from the billing desk. They had moved to a corner near the windows, where they could pretend they had chosen privacy. Celeste was typing furiously. Ruth sat alone with the clinic tablet on her lap. Nora was on the phone near the elevator, speaking in a low voice. Miguel came over with a printout. "Everything is moving," he said. "No delay." "Thank you," he hesitated. "For what it's worth, you handled that with more grace than most people would have." I looked at the floor because kindness from strangers was harder to receive than cruelty from family. I didn't feel graceful. "You didn't need to." That sentence stayed with me too. Nora returned a few minutes later. "Payroll approval is complete," she said. "Ruth will receive confirmation shortly. Transfers outside payroll remain restricted." Ruth looked down at the tablet. A notification appeared. She stared at it, then began to cry again, this time from relief. "Maria was worried," she said. "Her mortgage comes out Friday." My mother's head lifted from across the room. "Ruth," she warned. Ruth did not look at her. I walked over to Ruth and sat beside her. "Staff gets paid first," I said. She nodded, wiping her cheek. "June used to say exactly that." My mother stood. "Enough," she said. "This has become completely inappropriate." Nobody moved. That was new. My mother was used to her voice rearranging rooms. This time, the room stayed where it was. She walked toward me slowly. "Marin, I don't know what you think you've accomplished, but you have embarrassed your father, frightened your sister, and dragged clinic business into a hospital." I looked at the billing counter where the invoice had been. "You did that." Her nostrils flared. "You are still my daughter." I waited. There was always another sentence. "And after everything we've done for you, I cannot believe you would humiliate us like this." There it was. I stood. I was tired in a way that felt older than that morning. "You gave me a bill for raising me while my child was waiting for heart surgery," I said. "I'm going to say this once. Do not contact me during Eli's surgery. Do not ask Ruth to move money outside payroll. Do not come near pre-op, recovery, or his room unless I invite you." My father rose slowly. "Marin," I turned to him. He stopped. Maybe he saw then that the daughter who used to wait for him was not waiting anymore. "You almost helped him," I said quietly. His mouth opened. No words came. "That was worse than if you hadn't reached." He looked down. My mother stepped between us. "That is manipulative." I looked at her. For the first time that morning, I felt no need to make her understand. Nora approached with the folder held against her chest. "Mrs. Voss, any further account questions need to go through counsel or the bank's trust department." My mother stared at her. "You always liked June more than me." Nora's face did not change. June balanced her books. It was the closest thing to an insult I ever heard Nora say. Celeste made a choked sound. "So what, Marin runs the clinic now?" "No," I said. My mother seized on that. "Exactly. She knows she can't." "I'm not running the clinic," I said. "I'm protecting payroll and appointing outside administration for that account." Celeste's face shifted. "Outside administration?" Ruth looked at the tablet again. Nora said, "Pending review, non-payroll disbursements will require trustee approval." Celeste's anger thinned into fear. I watched her understand that consulting payments were non-payroll disbursements. She looked at my mother. My mother looked away. That was another little truth, and it did its work without help from me. For the next 6 hours, I did not speak to my parents. Eli was in surgery. That was the only real thing. The waiting room became a world made of bad coffee, buzzing phones, muted televisions, and strangers glancing up every time a doctor came through the doors. Tessa stayed. She read a mystery novel without turning many pages. Ruth left after payroll confirmation came through. But before she did, she touched my shoulder and said, "Your grandmother would be relieved." Not proud. Relieved. That hurt in a way I understood. Nora left too, after making sure I had every number I needed. Miguel checked in twice, once with paperwork and once with no paperwork at all, just to say, still moving. My parents lingered for 40 minutes, then disappeared. Celeste posted something online about family emergencies revealing people's true character. Tessa showed me, then asked if I wanted her to block Celeste from Eli's school contact list. Not yet, I said. I was too tired to make more decisions. At 1:37 p.m., Dr. Rosner came through the doors in blue surgical scrubs, cap lines on her forehead, and told me Eli had done well. I heard the words. Then I had to ask her to repeat them. He did well, she said, again softer. My knees went weak. Tessa caught my elbow. I thought I would cry loudly then, but what came out was one breath, almost a laugh, almost a sob. Can I see him soon? When I saw Eli in recovery, he looked impossibly small. Tubes, monitors, tape, the steady mechanical beeps of machines doing their jobs. His lips were dry. His hair was flattened on one side. I sat beside him and put one finger into his palm. Even asleep, he held on. That was the moment the rest of it became background. Money, trusts, accounts, my mother's face, my father's silence. All of it moved far away. For 2 days, I lived in the hospital chair beside Eli's bed. Tessa came before work and after work. Miguel stopped by once with a billing update and a sticker for Eli that said champion in big blue letters. Ruth texted me a photo of the payroll confirmation, with all employee names blacked out except the total count. 27 paid. I cried over that too. My mother called 14 times. I did not answer. She texted first in outrage. You had no right to ambush us, then in concern. Your father is beside himself. Then in revision. We were only trying to help you understand responsibility. Then in sweetness. Please send a picture of our brave boy. I sent nothing. Harold left one voicemail. Marin, your mother is upset. I know things got heated. We should sit down as a family when Eli is stable. There are business matters you don't understand. I deleted that one. Then I restored it from deleted messages because old habits die in practical order. Celeste sent one text. You're going to regret making enemies of the only people who would have helped you. I looked at that for a long time. Then I blocked her. Not forever, maybe, I told myself. Just long enough to breathe. That first week, visible consequences moved faster than feelings. Nora connected me with a payroll administration firm that specialized in small medical practices. The trust attorney reviewed the account authority. Ruth provided documentation of payroll needs, flagged transfers, and ignored notices. I approved employee payroll and denied 3 non-payroll transfer attempts. One was labeled vendor reimbursement. It was for Celeste's Consulting LLC. Another was marked family reserve adjustment. Nora called about that one personally. I'm denying it, I said. I assumed so, she replied. My mother's attorney sent a letter using phrases like misunderstanding, unauthorized interference, and emotional distress during a medical event. My legal aid attorney helped me respond with copies of the signature card, the trust excerpt, the notice log, and a short statement that payroll administration would continue uninterrupted. I did not write one emotional sentence. That was harder than it sounds. There were so many things I wanted to say. I wanted to write, you invoiced me for being your child. I wanted to write, Dad almost helped and then looked at you. I wanted to write, Eli heard you. Instead, I wrote, all future account communication should be directed through counsel and the designated payroll administrator. My attorney said, good. Boring is strong. I taped that phrase to my monitor for a week. The clinic staff learned the truth in pieces. Not because I announced it. I did not go there with a speech. But when payroll arrived on time and non-payroll draws stopped, people asked Ruth questions. When Diane told them I had frozen the clinic's money, Ruth corrected her. She protected payroll, Ruth said. Maria from the front desk sent me a text from a number I did not recognize. You probably don't remember me giving you lollipops when you were little, but I remember you filing charts after school. Thank you for making sure we got paid. I sat on the edge of Eli's hospital bed while he slept and read that message 3 times. I remembered the lollipops. Green apple. A week after surgery, my mother appeared at the hospital with a gift bag. I saw her from the nurse's station before she saw me. She looked smaller without an audience. Still polished, still Diane, but strained around the mouth. She held a silver balloon that said "Get well soon" and a bag from the expensive toy store downtown. My first instinct was to hide. That embarrassed me. I was 34 years old. I controlled the account she had tried to use. I had legal documents, witnesses, and hospital security 20 steps away. Still, some part of my body remembered being 16 with car keys in my hand, and my mother asking why I hated the family. She saw me. Her face softened immediately. "Marin," she said. I walked toward her but stopped before she could touch me. "Ellie is resting, I know. I just want to see my grandson. He's not available for visitors." Pain flashed across her face, or something shaped like it. "I'm his grandmother." Yes, she waited for that word to open a door. It didn't. She lifted the gift bag. "I brought him something. You can leave it at the desk." Her eyes filled. My mother could cry on command, but not always falsely. Sometimes she did feel things. The problem was that her feelings had always been treated as instructions for everyone else. "I don't know who you are right now," she said. I almost answered, "I'm who you made." I didn't. "I'm Eli's mother," I said. "That is not all you are, no, but it's the part that matters here." Her hand tightened around the balloon string. "Your father hasn't slept." I said nothing. "He feels terrible." I thought of his checkbook, the small movement, the stop. "He can feel terrible at home." Her tears hardened. "You are being cruel." "No," I said. "I'm being clear." That may count as one of the few sentences I kept from that time, because it was the first boundary I said without shaking. She leaned closer. "You don't understand what you're doing to the clinic." "I understand exactly what I'm doing to the payroll account." Her mouth tightened. "You always think you're smarter than everyone." "No," I said. "I read what I sign." She pulled back like I had slapped her. For a moment, I thought she would yell, but the nurse's station was close. And Diane never wasted a performance on an audience she could not win. She set the gift bag down on a chair. "This is not over," she said. I looked at the balloon bobbing above her hand. "For Eli it is." She left the gift bag. Inside was a remote control car, a stuffed bear, and a card that said, "Grandma and Grandpa love you more than anything." I did not give Eli the card. I gave him the car 2 weeks later, after checking the wheels for tiny batteries, because hospital exhaustion had made me paranoid about everything. He drove it across the kitchen floor and crashed it into Tessa's shoe. Tessa said, "Good brakes are important." Eli laughed carefully, one hand resting near his healing chest. That laugh did something surgery had not fully done. It let me believe he was coming back to himself. When Eli came home, the duplex looked different, even though nothing had changed. Same narrow kitchen. Same chipped white cabinet near the sink. Same refrigerator covered in school art and medication charts. Same old porch light that Tessa had replaced while we were in the hospital because mine had burned out. The blue coin purse sat on the kitchen table. Tessa had found it in my bag while looking for my insurance card and set it there carefully. Beside it were Eli's discharge papers, 3 prescription bottles, and the hospital bracelet they had cut off his wrist before we left. I picked up the bracelet. His name was printed in black. Eli Voss, date of birth, patient number. So many systems had reduced him to lines and numbers that week. Some had helped save him. Some had tried to scare me. I had learned again that paper could harm or protect, depending on whose hands held it. I opened the coin purse and placed the bracelet inside. The brass snap clicked shut. Eli was asleep on the couch, gray sweatshirt zipped halfway, fox under one arm. Tessa sat at the table writing medication times on a calendar in block letters. "You don't have to do that," I said. "I know." She kept writing every 6 hours, with food, watch for fever, call if breathing changes, no invoice, no speech, just blue ink and a person who stayed. That evening, my father came alone. He knocked at 7:15 p.m., soft enough that I almost didn't hear it. I looked through the peephole and saw him standing under the new porch light, with his hands in his coat pockets. For a few seconds, I did nothing. Then I opened the door but kept the chain on. He looked at the chain. Something passed over his face. "Hi, Marin. Ellie's asleep." "I won't come in," I waited. He seemed older than he had at the hospital. His clinic jacket was gone. He wore a gray sweater I had given him for Christmas 3 years earlier, back when I still shopped carefully for people who hurt me. I wanted to see how he was. "He's recovering. That's good. Yes." He looked down at the porch boards. "Your mother is having a hard time." I almost closed the door. He saw it. "I know," he said quickly. "I know that's not the point." I did not help him. He swallowed. I should have helped you that morning." The sentence sat there. It was the closest he had come to truth. "Yes," I said. He looked up. His eyes were wet. "I was trying to keep things from getting worse." "They were already worse." He nodded. For 1 second, I saw the man I had wanted him to be. Not because he had become that man, but because wanting leaves shapes behind. He looked sorry. He may even have been sorry. Then he said, "If you could just release enough for the clinic to stabilize, your mother might calm down." The shape disappeared. I almost laughed, not because it was funny, because there it was, the old family staircase. One honest step, then right back down into use. "No," I said. He closed his eyes. "Payroll is stable," I continued. "The clinic can operate. Staff will be paid. Vendors with documentation will be paid. Diane and Celeste will not use that account. Celeste is humiliated. Celeste was paid. She's your sister. She is an adult." His jaw tightened. "This is going to tear the family apart." I looked through the narrow opening at my father, this man who had spent my whole life standing, just close enough to harm, to call himself helpless. "No," I said. "It's showing what was already torn." He flinched. "I did not enjoy that. That matters to me. I did not enjoy his pain. I just did not volunteer to carry it." He reached into his coat and pulled out an envelope. "I wrote some things down," he said. I looked at it. The old me would have opened the chain, taken the letter, read it immediately, and searched every line for proof that he loved me without needing me to fix something. The woman standing at the door had a sleeping child on the couch, a medication schedule on the fridge, and a trust attorney waiting on signed paperwork. "Mail it," I said. He looked surprised. "What mail it? I'm not taking anything at the door tonight." His hand lowered slowly. "All right," he said. He stood there a second longer. "Tell Eli Grandpa loves him." I thought about that. "I'll tell him you asked how he was." His face changed, but he nodded. I closed the door gently. Tessa was standing in the kitchen when I turned around. She did not ask what he wanted. She just held up the medication bottle. 8 o'clock dose in 10 minutes. I leaned back against the door and laughed once, tired and sad. "Thank you." Yep, a month later, the clinic had an outside payroll administrator. Ruth stayed, Maria stayed, Craig stayed. My parents stayed too, but differently. Their names were still on the clinic sign, at least for a while. Legal structures do not turn like movie scenes. There were reviews, documents, meetings, and rules. Boring things. Strong things. Diane could no longer move payroll reserves to cover personal shortfalls. Harold could no longer pretend not to know which account fixed what. Celeste's consulting payments stopped until she could produce a contract, work product, and approval record. She produced none of those. My mother told people I had become controlling under stress. Ruth told people payroll was on time. Both stories traveled. Only one had receipts. I did not become rich. That is not what happened. I did not buy a new car or move into a mansion or stand in the clinic lobby giving orders. The account was not mine like a prize. It was mine to guard. That difference would have bored my mother, which is why Grandma June had not trusted her with it. I kept my job. I kept my duplex. I kept Eli's follow-up appointments in a red folder by the toaster because the kitchen was the only place I trusted myself not to lose it. But my life changed. It changed in the hours I got back because I stopped answering family emergencies that were really consequences. It changed in the quiet after dinner when my phone buzzed and I did not tense. It changed when Eli asked, "Are Grandma and Grandpa mad at us?" And I answered carefully, "They're upset because I made rules." He thought about that. Like when you say no running after surgery, kind of. But rules keep people safe, yes. He nodded, satisfied. Children can understand things adults pretend are complicated. The last time I saw my mother that year was outside the clinic. I had gone to meet the payroll administrator and Ruth. I chose 8 a.m. because I knew the lobby would be full enough to prevent theatrics, but not so full that patients would be dragged into family history. Tessa drove me because my car was in the shop, and because she had begun showing up in my life with the casual steadiness of weather. I wore black pants, a blue blouse, and Grandma June's coin purse tucked into my work bag. I do not know why I brought it. Maybe because some part of me wanted Grandma June in the building. The clinic smelled the same. Antiseptic, coffee, printer toner, and the faint rubber smell from the physical therapy mats. The old photo of Grandma June was still in the hallway near the restroom. Someone had cleaned the glass. Ruth saw me looking at it. "I moved it back yesterday," she said. I turned to her. She lifted her chin a little. "Diane hasn't noticed yet." I smiled. "Not big. Enough." The meeting lasted 27 minutes. Boring, practical, clean, payroll schedule, approval thresholds, vendor documentation, no personal disbursements, no consulting payments without contract review. When it was over, my mother was waiting in the hallway. Of course she was. She wore a cream blazer and the pearls. "Armor, Marin," she said. Ruth froze behind me. "It's okay," I said. My mother looked at Ruth. "Can we have a private family conversation?" "No," I said. Ruth's eyes widened. My mother's smile thinned. "Excuse me, no. Anything about the account goes through the administrator or counsel. Anything about Eli goes through me, in writing, when I decide it's appropriate. Anything about your feelings is not mine to manage." Her cheeks flushed. "You sound rehearsed." "I am." That was true. I had practiced in the car. Tessa had played Diane and made her voice so sweetly venomous that I had laughed for the first time all morning. My mother stepped closer. "After everything I did for you, you would reduce me to paperwork." I thought of the red invoice. "Yes," I said. "For business matters." Her eyes shone. "And for family." I looked at her for a long moment. Behind her, on the wall, Grandma June's photo showed a younger woman in a white uniform standing outside the first clinic, one hand shielding her eyes from the sun. "For family," I said. "You can start with an apology to Eli." My mother's mouth opened, closed. There were patients in the lobby. Marie at the desk, Ruth beside me, Tessa near the front door, pretending to read a flu shot flyer. My mother could not say what she wanted with all those witnesses. So she chose wounded dignity. "You're enjoying this," she whispered. "No," I said, "I'm ending it." She looked at me then with real hatred, brief, naked, and gone as soon as Maria glanced up. Then she smiled. "Help is for family who remembers what they owe," she said, throwing her own sentence back at me like a key she still thought fit the lock. I felt the old pain rise. Then I heard Grandma June's coin purse snap in my memory. I said the final thing I needed to say to her. "You were right about one thing, Mom. Help is for family who remembers what they owe." I did not raise my voice. I did not explain that she owed Eli gentleness, not a gift bag. She owed clinic staff honest payroll, not panic. She owed me a childhood without invoices. I did not list any of it. Her face did the work. I walked past her to the lobby. Tessa held the door open without making it look like a rescue. Outside, the morning was cold and bright. My breath showed front of me. Cars moved along Fairbridge Avenue. Someone had planted pansies in the clinic boxes, purple and white, the same kind Grandma June used to plant, before Diane decided they were old-fashioned. In the car, Tessa asked, "How do you feel?" I buckled my seatbelt. "Hungry," I said. She nodded. "Excellent. Rage breakfast. Pancakes, strong choice. We went to a diner on Route 6, not the place my parents liked. A different one, with cracked vinyl booths and waitresses who called everyone sweetheart without making it sound like ownership. I ordered pancakes, eggs, and coffee. For the first time in weeks, I finished the whole plate. Eli healed slowly, then quickly, the way children sometimes do after scaring adults half to death. He walked to the mailbox with me in June. He went back to school half-days in August. By September, he could laugh without guarding his chest. His scar faded from angry red to soft pink. One night, while we were packing his backpack, he found the blue coin purse in the kitchen drawer. "Can I see it now?" he asked. I handed it to him. He opened it carefully and found his hospital bracelet inside, folded beside 3/4, and a peppermint I had added, because Grandma June would have. He touched the bracelet. "Why did you keep this?" I thought about how to answer without handing a child more than he needed. "Because it reminds me you came home," I said. He nodded. Then he said, "Can we put something good in it too?" "What do you mean?" He ran to his room and came back with a small arcade token from the first day he felt well enough to go out for pizza. He placed it inside the coin purse beside the bracelet. "There," he said. "Now it's not just hospital." I closed my hand around the purse. He was right. It was not just hospital, not just fear, not just Grandma June paying a child $20 when her mother wouldn't. Not just a bank card, a signature line, or a morning when my parents learned access was not love. It was proof that something could carry pain, and still have room for a better day. That winter, we had Thanksgiving at my duplex. Not a grand one, no long table, no family china. Tessa came over with green beans and rolls. Ruth came for dessert and brought apple pie from the bakery near the clinic. Miguel sent Eli a card because, somehow, through the strange web of hospital kindness, he remembered the follow-up date. Maria from the clinic dropped off a tin of cookies and stayed for coffee. Eli made place cards from construction paper. Mine said Mom. Tessa's said Nurse Tessa, even though she told him off-duty was off-duty. Ruth said Payroll Ruth. Ruth laughed so hard, she had to wipe her eyes. There were empty places in my life that day. I will not pretend there weren't. I missed the idea of parents more than I missed the people themselves. I missed what I used to hope would happen. My mother softening, my father standing up. Celeste admitting she had been cruel because cruelty was the family language she had learned best. None of that happened. Or maybe it happened somewhere without reaching me. What reached me was peace. A kitchen too warm from the oven. Eli eating pie before finishing dinner because Ruth told him heart surgery survivors got one official payroll exception. Tessa washing dishes with her sleeves rolled up. The blue coin purse sitting on the windowsill above the sink, brass clasp catching the light. My phone stayed quiet, not because they stopped trying right away. They didn't. Diane sent letters. Harold mailed the envelope from the porch. Celeste created new numbers to text me. I handled what needed handling through proper channels and ignored the rest. Eventually, even their noise had nowhere to land. That is what boundaries did for me. Not a dramatic wall. More like a locked file cabinet. People could stand outside it and make claims, but they could not reach in and rearrange the records. Eli once asked if I was sad. I told him yes. He asked if sad meant wrong. I told him no. Then we made grilled cheese and watched a movie with a dog in it, and halfway through, he fell asleep against my shoulder. That was enough answer for both of us. I still work in reimbursement audits. I still read the small lines. The clinic still operates, though not under the same old fog. My parents eventually stepped back from daily control after the review made certain patterns hard to explain. Ruth retired the following spring with a party in the break room and a cake that said staff gets paid first, which she claimed was a joke and everyone knew was not. I sent flowers, no card. Grandma June's photo is back near the front entrance now. Maria sent me a picture. In it, Grandma June is standing in the sun outside the old clinic, looking straight at the camera like she had known all along that someday someone would need proof. Maybe she did. Or maybe she simply understood what my parents never did. Care is not the same as control. That is one of the few things I know plainly now. I do not tell this story because I think every family fight needs a bank folder or a public reveal. Most don't get one. Most people never get the clean moment where the document lands on the counter, and the person who hurt them has to watch the room understand. I tell it because I spent too many years believing that if I explained myself better, worked harder, stayed calmer, answered faster, gave more, needed less, my parents would finally stop treating me like a debt. They didn't. They stopped having access when access was removed. That is not as pretty as forgiveness, but it kept my son safe. It let employees get paid, it let me sleep, and it let my life become something quieter than proof. That's my story. A blue coin purse, $18,400 in red ink, and a kitchen table full of people who came without a bill. If someone in your life only values you when you are useful, take this as your sign to look closely at what they call love, what they call loyalty, and what they expect you to keep paying. You do not have to turn your pain into a performance to make it real. Sometimes the strongest thing you can do is keep the receipt, protect the child, and stop opening the door.